Peace to the elders, the ancestral giants. Peace to gods and goddesses past, present, and future. Peace to kings, queens, and royal families all over. And peace to you, brothers and sisters. You tune into Oak 93.5 FM, Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio. And today we have with us the honorable brother Ausar, man.
Anakasar, a BB448, African liberation, black liberation, African power, black power. For every black man, woman, and child on the planet, we are the original people. I am the original man. I am a son of Africa. Peace to the listening audience. Please pay close attention. We have some very disturbing things going on across the United States in the African American community, the black community. So please put your listening ears on and keep your eyes open.
And we have the Queen, Dr. Kimberly Muktarian.
Good morning, listening audience. Of course, we are grieving the loss of a young man here in Raleigh, North Carolina, first and foremost, where we are stationed. However, we're also grieving others across the states, especially in Charlotte, North Carolina, Roanoke Rapids, and many others who are no longer with us by way of what we have been told, suicide, or what we believe to be, in some cases, homicide. We ask that you all please keep these bodies, these humans, and of course, our future in your prayers and move beyond just praying, but forward to action.
I'm Brother Escents Divine. And first of all, I want to state that this investigation is still open. So this production is conducted by Africans United, and just make sure y'all understand that. On Saturday, August 15th, a 32-year-old black man was found hanging from a tree in downtown Raleigh near the Caribbean Festival. The discovery immediately sent shockwaves through the black community. Raleigh Police Chief Rico Boyce stated that surveillance footage shows the man walking alone toward the location carrying an electrical cord, and that additional video captured the incident. Police say they have found no evidence that another person was involved. However, the investigation has been turned over to North Carolina Office of Chief Medical Examiner, which has the authority to make the official determination concerning the cause and manner of death. Until the process is completed, public officials should be precise about what has been established and what remains under investigation. The community's concern cannot simply be dismissed as rumor, hysteria, or misinformation. For black people in North Carolina, the image of a black man hanging from a tree is not historically neutral. It evokes generations of racial terror, public lynchings, government indifference, and in some cases, direct law enforcement participation. The timing makes this tragedy even more painful. On the same day this man was discovered, funeral services was held for Lynn Cancel, a Wake County man who survived being hanged by two sheriff's departments in 1952. Cancel had been falsely accused of robbery and refused to confess. Law enforcement officers took him into the woods and hung him from an oak tree, but he survived. Wake County Sheriff publicly apologized decades later. That historical connection does not prove that this recent death was a lynching, but it explains why the community is alarmed and why authorities must respond with more than trust us. Dr. Kim, has this this has been ruled a suicide by Raleigh Police Department when reported on the news. Do you think it has been thoroughly investigated enough to make that determination?
No, not at this time. I believe that the initial confirming that it was a suicide was basically ill-timed and I don't know if I want to say premeditated on how blacks are dealt with in the city of Raleigh, but certainly, we believed that a thorough investigation should have been done before they just completely ruled it a suicide. And I think, yes, while the community looking at these issues have concern to have immediate response, I don't think having the press for a immediate response means having a wrongful response. We don't need them to be quick and wrong. I will speak for myself, would rather them say it's under investigation, and we have not ruled either one way or the other.
Right. Right. I understand that. Brother Saul, you like to add a piece?
Yeah, so I definitely think that not only the case here in Raleigh, North Carolina, was ruled quickly and inaccurate, but I feel like all the other cases that's going on, within the South in the country and that has went on over the last, 100 and something years, have been ruled too quickly. And, for some reason, when it comes to a person being hung, it's either a homicide and a suicide. And, anytime it's a suicide, they're always supposed to investigate it as a homicide first, right? And you cannot just quickly wrap up a scene. And also, when you look at the lack of coverage on the media, the news, national media, because they know what will happen. A lot of people right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and throughout the state and country are unaware of the 4 hangings in the recent 3 months here in North Carolina alone. And, just like me and you just heard, they found another body in Mississippi this morning. The brother had been missing since March 2nd. They say he'd been convicted of killing a white woman back in 1980. So these things are not suicides. And I really wish that we would stop playing games like there's even a possible chance that these things can be suicide, because we've never, ever heard of black people going around hanging themselves. That's only one group of people that does that. And also, we don't go around hanging ourselves in public. If somebody's going to do something like that, they'll do it at home. So I think that when they come to a conclusion that quick, that you have to look at a cover-up. And a lot of people think that the police are both directly and indirectly involved in some of these cases. Because you got to understand, we're in the South. Just like what you just got through reading about the brother that was hung by 2 deputies in 1952. So we have documentation of black men and women and children being lynched in this country. So I don't like the evidence game that they like to play, because just because they are unable to collect evidence doesn't mean that a crime was not committed.
True. And before the day end, I will go over the timeline of the press conference that Rico Boyce, his remarks that he did submit. But Brother Ausar, can you speak on what prevents the black community from trusting the police? That's what you were just alluding to.
Yes. I mean, history, when you look at mass incarceration, when you look at institutional and systemic racism across the board, when you look at, the court system and the disproportionate amount of time that they give the black people as opposed to Europeans, the hyper-policing in our communities, right? And I think that it's, important to understand that, a lot of the issues that go on in the black community, not just here in the United States, but globally, right, are recognized as, human rights violations against black people by the United Nations, right? Where in 2021, the United Nations, the Human Rights Division, they created a department that's international, independent expertise mechanism for advancement for racial equality in law enforcement, racial justice and equality in law enforcement. And it's a 12-point plan to work with police departments globally so that they will stop racial profiling, right? Stop the hyper-policing and just basically, look at things from a humanitarian perspective. But I'm pretty sure even though the United Nations did this, just like a lot of other things they've done, it falls on deaf ears. When we understand in March 2026, right, when Ghana submitted the resolution to the United Nations making the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity, right? It was approved. 123 countries voted in favor of it, right? 3 countries voted against it. The United States, Israel, and Argentina. The United States never want to acknowledge the atrocities that they have created against black people. And it's still taking place today. And we have to be real with ourselves, right? Based off of history, based off of the lynchings in history, that these things are basically either done by a hate group, and I think it needs to be investigated by the FBI as a hate crime, and also we have to look at it for black people as a public safety crisis and a public health crisis. And one thing that really disturbs me more than anything with this case here in Raleigh, the young brother that was found a couple of days ago hanging in Roanoke Rapids, Demetrius Fleming. We already have his name, right? So we have a name and a face with this victim, right? And so, and it's spreading because he had 9 children. We know something about him. The brother in Raleigh is nameless and faceless, right? So we don't even know that who we are advocating for, right? And, you know, they keep saying that the mother doesn't want to release his name. Nobody's heard from the mother, seen the mother, right? To me, I don't even think he's from this area because it seems like somebody would know him and would have leaked the name somewhere, you know, just through his friends or whatever. But it's something going on, and it's beyond fishy. And I know that this is the capital city of North Carolina, but I don't think we should look at this as an isolated incident, the way the city councilman Corey Brandt said, especially with everything that's going on across the country. You can't look at it as an isolated incident. We need to look at these things as hate crimes and crimes against humanity.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Kim, you like to speak on what prevents the black community from trusting the police?
Yes, I would like to say 400 years of injustice, plus an additional 100 years of Jim Crow, sharecropping, lynchings, and you know, every day that we look, I mean, we have much history to say why we do not trust the police, and this is not bash the police day, but we just have to be honest and truthful about things. Raleigh has had a severe breakdown of communication with the black community, all the way down to no-knock warrants, where they kick in the doors of our people that live in public housing or low-income housing and don't even apologize. So how could we believe that they would actually have some form of humanity or any form of whatever towards a sense of sympathy, empathy, or apathy to any of it, whether it's a homicide or a suicide. Again, while we talk about individually, I've had, as Raleigh Police Accountability Executive Director for that organization, I can truly say that I've come across quite a few individuals that are in uniform that I actually respect as a human. But collectively, it can be very dangerous because they have a duty to uphold the whole of whatever their goal is. And I can't tell you that the goal for any police department in America is pro-black, or the needs or objectives to keep black people alive. We don't see hangings in our communities. We don't see suicides in our community. This is very, I won't say new to us, but certainly something that we don't even want to expect. And I think that's one of the things that we have to say, because they've already made this about the people versus RPD in the city of Raleigh. No, this is not about the city of Raleigh and black people. This is about how we are looked upon, because we didn't create this division. And this is not the time to test the division either. So I think for the most part, I think it's an unjust. And let me say this. I'm trying to understand, like Brother Ausar said, what is preventing the city or the state from releasing this young man's name if it's a suicide? If Roanoke Rapids could do it, then why can't Raleigh? Why wouldn't you want his name revealed? Suicide is not a criminal. He's not a criminal. Why are you punishing this young man like his name should not be revealed? Now, if his mother said, please don't reveal it, and the law protects her to establish that, then so be it. I'm a mother. I understand what that is. But at the end of the day, we have to also ask, what's the reasoning behind that? And of course, since we have not spoken to the mother, all of this is up in the air. The community is left with unanswered questions. So we have a duty to ask, if nothing else, and hopefully get a more humane or empathetic answer from the police department and hopefully from this mother. I believe community to community, if this mom says she wants support, we're here already. If the mother says, I don't want any and I want to be left alone, she has that right. However, it would be fun. It would be, I think it would be incumbent upon her to come out publicly and say that. So we're calling out the mom to this young brother who we lost, not just she, we lost a person in our community that obviously lost the help, couldn't get the help, needed the help. At the end of the day, he is gone. And we have to grow stronger as a community to wrap our arms around this person. It is the same way in which George Floyd was murdered. And before he died, who knew he existed? Yeah. Who in our communities wrapped themselves around him to understand? Lucky for him, he had a friend who was in the NBA who gave him money. But if that was not the case, would we have known, had he not been lynched in front of us on public grounds, would we have known any of that to have happened? And I can say this because Derek Chauvin, and I'll, move on, but, let us just take a step back because George Floyd was lynched to death. They don't word his murder as a lynching. Mm-hmm. But anytime you asphyxiate someone, whether it's with a rope or with a knee, you've denied this brother airway, and you did it in public. And your most humane so-called police officer stood right there and allowed him to do so. So there was no checks and balances even amongst other police officers who watched him lynch him to death. And if you don't believe that lynchings are not just a rope in a tree, we can go over to Emmett Till, who was thrown in the river and with a device hanging around his neck, a heavy fan. And, that's where he was tossed. But he was lynched also. Right. So we have to be very careful about how lackadaisical we become in allowing law enforcement to speak for us. Because they don't. Truth, they do investigations, they wrap up crime scenes, but they don't speak for all of humanity. And nor should they be allowed to speak for all of humanity.
Right. And other like that CAC meeting that was a few months back, how they was targeting or talking about them young children. So the distress start early for our community. I give a quick story. My son, about a couple of summers ago, he was 10, 11 years old at the time. He was playing basketball at the basketball court right down the street, right on the same street. And I get the phone call that the police was down there questioning him at that time about something, stolen bicycle or something. And he's down there walking. Matter of fact, they said he was on his way walking back home at that time. And some of the people down the street called his mother and let her know. But yeah, just those situations like that would start the distress for the police department early on.
If I may interject, brother,
yeah.
Because I think this is important. In July of 2023, when the city council approved the resolution as far as their discrimination against African Americans, black people over the last 200 and something years, in dealing with, education, dealing with criminal justice, police brutality, police harassment. And with this admission, it was a resolution was supposed to come to repair the damage in dealing with social justice.
Talk about
So we already have an admission from the city of Raleigh as far as their treatment, their mistreatment of black people here in the city of Raleigh. So we have to take these things seriously because they haven't done anything to change the behavior like you just described. And I remember that when you told me that about when they were harassing Pharaoh,
Right.
good kid,
Yeah.
and a lot of our kids are good. That's why I think it's important for us not to let them push out propaganda about our children and about us. And another thing that I really think is disingenuous is, the way, the police department is using the mother as a shield. Because my thing is this: if everyone is so concerned about this man don't want to know his name, why would you put out that he has a mental health illness and that he was suffering? And if he was suffering like that, and then his name should really come to the forefront as a public health crisis, what are driving black men to create, things like that where they want to kill themselves? Suicide, right? And they have statistics on that. But, that's another angle since they want to say it's suicide. I know it wasn't a suicide, right? And I'm not even going to play the game like it could have possibly been a suicide. Because for one, the news didn't cover it. That's why a lot of people didn't know, right? And when I spoke to the city councilman, I was like, that was newsworthy. When you find a black man hanging in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, the capital city, you have to investigate that fully. You can't just come to a conclusion that it was suicide, especially when you as a city councilman called a special meeting for elementary age children, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, talking about their throwing rocks, breaking windows in the community where white people live. Had the juvenile court prevention council there, right? Had the Raleigh Police Department there.
Yeah.
He was there. Had the district attorney for juvenile there, public defender. All of these agencies to talk about children who they can't even charge with a crime, right? And had the news agency to cover that case 2 times. They blurred the faces of the children on the commercial. On the video, the news broadcast. The children looked like they was about 3 or 4 years old, throwing the ball, playing with each other, right? And that's why I got so upset at that meeting in May when I saw them criminalizing the children, and when the lady said, well, can we shoot the perpetrators? Right? That's why, and that's, really got to me, because as we can see now, what's going on across the country, they are targeting black people, they are hunting black people, right? And so we have to deal with this thing in a strategic, organized way. We have to hold our public officials accountable. And we know that they like to put a black face on white supremacy. Our police chief is black. The sheriff is black. The county manager is black. City councilman is black. We have judges that are black, right? And they use these people as a buffer to get away with committing crimes, right? And we have to be honest about the situation. We all know black people aren't killing themselves. I've been even running across Europeans, white people. They're upset about what's going on because they don't want to come across black people out in the street and have a fear that it's going to be retaliation against them when they don't have them same sentiments. Even they said black men and women don't hang themselves. They said it's either the Ku Klux Klan or some type of white hate groups or individuals that are committing these things. But I think it's too organized for it to be individual accounts. I think it's something bigger going on here. And that's why I feel like, the federal government has to come in, the national news, local news, everybody need to be involved, because we cannot walk around not knowing that these things are taking place in our community, right? Because it creates a safety hazard for people who are unaware of what's going on. They might want to go to the store late night to get a bottle of water or whatever, a soda, a snack, and get snatched up. These things are important.
Right.
And if you don't have the knowledge of what's going on, and I feel like it's the responsibility of the news agency to report these important events.
Yeah. And even if it was just to play the other side, even if it was a mental disease, then what are they doing to try to combat that? You know, if it's some type of mental illness going on inside the people, some equilibrium problem, then they're not even trying to, combat that to help solve these type of problems so it won't continue. You understand what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Well, let me
so-
say this. The entire downtown Raleigh is a cesspool for mental health. If anybody has driven down Blunt Street, side of Person Street, and Wilmington Street, Fayetteville Street, if you go anywhere downtown, you're going to see the tale of two cities: poverty and brokenness and mental health. And then you're going to see the established elite, middle class people enjoying their downtown. And so we also have to ask our people, ask this to the city, the county, state, and the federal government: did you create these conditions? Now, that is why it's so important for us to have a discussion with this mother, because if this mother admits that this young man had severe suicidal tendencies or what have you, that is understood. However, where did it come from? Was it hereditary? Was it something that was done as a result of? Because if the conditions were created, then guess what? He just didn't have a suicide. He was lynched by his own government, because we as a people should be much further than we are. And that's not to say that we all, as African Americans, don't have some form of dysfunction, because now our education could smooth it out a little and make us look like we're full cake. But we have been injured by this country. And we all cannot forget that. And I know, they've taught us how to take a licking and keep on ticking. And, we got the Resilience Award where they'll tell us how resilient we are. But no, the abuse is real. And that is why we're here today, to talk about the fact that we don't trust them. We don't trust them because you don't repair or repay nothing, even to the ones that look like we're okay. You haven't done anything. And so, yes, we have a right and a duty to stand up and debunk this until we feel that justice is served. We know that suicides happen. It doesn't happen often because we've learned how to manage our own pain without asking for government assistance. Some of us have blocked out the fact that we have mental health issues at all. However, it is real. And we are going to hold them accountable for this. We're going to say, if you pay the cost to be the boss, then you have to put everything on the table. So, yes, we would love to speak to the mother. And we would love to put this brother to rest with a name, because he was human. If the government could take and put his name on a birth certificate or a death certificate, he is not a John Doe to our community.
That's exactly right.
He is a human, and he have human rights all the way up until now. He was 30 years old. He was not under the age of 18, under his mother's custody.
That's right.
He was 30. And
32.
so, 32.
Right.
He was above 18. He has a name, and his name now rings true, whether it was a lynching, a homicide, or if it was a suicide. And he will help us remember what it means to die in the heart of a city that's thriving, downtown Raleigh, right at a festival where he could have been. He was supposed to be free, but he was not a free man.
Brother, if I may, because, I think it raises a lot of questions and concerns that, his name has not been released. And this is like the 8th or 9th day. It was later said that on August 15th when they found him, hanging from the tree. And also, I think it's important with, nobody hearing anything from the mother. They just saying the mother said this and the mother said that. Raises serious questions, because it's important to understand that, people can manufacture evidence, right, and can make things up, because we don't even know if his mother is still alive or not. So you just can't tell us anything. And also, they might go and try to hire somebody to act like they was his mother. He can't say whether it's his mother or not, because he's no longer with us. But I feel like the brother deserves the respect, and I also feel like the community and humanity deserve the respect to know who this young brother was.
Amen.
And I just
Amen.
think that it's so disrespectful,
Right.
you know, for them to try to keep talking about his mama said this and his mother said that, and we have no evidence of that whatsoever. And also another thing I would like to say about the police chief and the press conference that he had. I thought it was terrible because it was very condescending, you know, to our communities, mainly African Americans, black people. Like, we don't have the right to be concerned about one of our own, to just take their word and say that if the information isn't confirmed on social media, don't believe it. Well, your information ain't concerned. If it wasn't for social media, right?
Many of us
And
will not.
shout out to social media.
Yes.
We wouldn't know any of these things that's taking place across the country.
That is correct.
Especially here in the South. So social media has really, you know, had people on it. So many people where, you know, a lot of valid information are coming because people are really concerned about what's going on. Right. And I think that's why, you know, the lack of attention that these things have received from the national media is very, very concerning.
Well, Brother Ausar, you said something important. They're arguing about Chief Rico Boyce, High Chief, and this is directed to RPD and the mayor's office as well. You want to say that perhaps social media is the problem with providing information, but you all haven't given us anything. We don't have any, you know, we're waiting on you. We're not, I didn't watch social media. I'm not on social media. And when the young people called me and blew up the phone, that's the first thing they said is social media, Dr. Kim. And I said to them, do not believe everything on social media. You know, AKA, please, I can't take another murder. That's in my head. That's what I'm saying. I don't care if it's homicide or suicide. And the lynching whole thing is even the more taxing on advocates, because that means we have to fight like the Dickens to uncover white supremacy that is protected by the government.
Right.
So do you know how exhausting that is? I can't tell you that I would have preferred either, but suicide is horrible. But to have to fight America on its own turf, is absolutely disturbing. Because, again, it is not like they willingly turn over evidence. And you know, to the RPD with evidence, heck, we watched them just three years ago, 2022. They don't know how to classify drugs because they pinned 20 men under Omar Abdullah, another black man, who went out and searched black men, and instead of saying that they had one drug, he pinned most of them with heroin charges, so that they could possibly stay in jail longer because it carried more time. So please, with this, be honest and trust us. Oh, that's way out the window. And so trying to repair that per chief of police, I've always treated people personally as the executive director as, okay, each person is different. Perhaps I think the black community has always given the police departments, especially Raleigh, the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. We've always been open to come to the table. Let's not forget that January the 17th, 2023, Darrell Williams was murdered in open. He was lynched right there on the premises of Rock Quarry Road. That was January 17th. In October the previous year, not even 2 or 3 months before, the community sat down with RPD to go over a de-escalation policy. Why? Because they had killed some more minorities. We came to the table then. 3 months later, another black man was dead. So it's not that we don't trust you, because we come to the table to iron out differences and find ways that we can be transparent, understanding, and ways that we can prevent. But obviously, training is not your issue. It is how you feel. And I also say this because I came on the scene the very next day, and an officer basically told me, well, they didn't have all the evidence. And but then I also spoke with an employee of Whiskey Kitchen. Shout out to Whiskey Kitchen, and may you heal mentally from this. And one of the young men who worked in the kitchen, he cried profusely. He said because he was disrespected so bad after walking up on this body. He has not received a call from RPD or no one otherwise regarding the case. And as far as I can see in RPD's directives, they are supposed to reach out to those who saw this lynching or this person. Didn't ask for a number, name, or anything. So we're back to square one. Does your police department have humanity? And are they taught to respect Black lives? We're back at Black Lives Matter, you all. And that's the level of investigation you're going to have or don't have based off of how your police departments handle. I am now hearing that the SBI indeed has the case, and I'm hoping at the next level of law enforcement, we can have some more humanity added.
Brother, I want to mention our great revolutionary attorney, Derek Bell, the creator of critical race theory. And
Yes.
when one of his tenets was the permanence of racism in this country, that it's permanent. And I think that and how, systemic racism was embedded into the very fabric of this society in dealing with, legal issues and the law. And I think that when we have perfect examples of that going on now, that the law works one way for Europeans, white people, and another way for Black people. It's
Yes.
to protect the Europeans, the white people, right? Just like how they're protecting them boys in Mississippi with the Nolan Wells case.
Still
right?
don't have any evidence revealed.
That's just an ugly case all the way around. No one's been arrested, right? And they had his phone and things like that. And also when you look at the Carmelo Anthony case, where it was clear that he was defending himself, right, from being attacked and being in jump. But who did they protect? They protected the white boys. And even when the Asian shot the young brother in the back after chasing him for 130 yards, who did they protect? They protected the Asian, right? But they never protect us. Cohen Wiley, still no charges have been brought against the police, right? Or 1-year-old baby. We have to really look at these things seriously because they're showing us in our face that
It's true.
the justice system is not built to protect us. It's built to protect the Europeans, right? And the police department isn't basically put together to protect and serve, the African American community. Is to seek and destroy our communities with hyper policing and everything else, right? And then, you look at a few days after the young brother, and it's sad that I have to keep saying the young brother because it's like he don't have no name. That's very disrespectful. They had a roundup of 35 people downtown Raleigh and charged them with 135 felonies, like drug charges and alcohol charges. They say they've been watching them since June. And initially, they had pictures of the 35 people who they had charged, and it was sad because you could look and see that these people were really struggling, with mental health issues and
Substance
homelessness,
abuse.
Addiction,
substance
yeah.
abuse, and it's like, that's an easy target. Y'all didn't really do no investigation and go take people. Some of the people were probably happy to get locked up, to get a good night's sleep and get some
I'm
food.
done. I'm done.
To be honest,
I can't.
so they hurried up and took the picture down because somebody probably said how it looked because it wasn't a good look. So then they just start reporting on it, right? And I'm like, wow. So now all of a sudden they want to act like they trying to clean up downtown, right where the police department is, the police station, the courthouse, the sheriff's. Why do y'all have all of these things going on downtown? That's how you know they're really not concerned about the mental health of the citizens here in this city and in this county. Because if they were, they would start with the people right there instead of once again doing what? Criminalizing the Black and the brown.
Well, I wish they go ahead on and pay us all reparations, because along with all that whole list of July the 5th 2023, when they apologized,
That's right.
it did not come with $1. It didn't come with 50 cents. All of the damages that you've done for 400 to 500 years, suicide, give us a neck brace for lynchings. I don't know what you got to do. But you got to protect us, because there has nothing been done that deliberately targets black people for repair. It targets us on everything else. It targeted us on the 39-man roundup the other night, but it didn't target us to say you are owed $1 for repair. So you rounded them up. What did you do? And then this is what we are coming for. We are saying you can round us up all you want, but if you don't repair us, it's actually called racketeering. Because you are racketeering black bodies.
Right.
You're putting them back in the system, and you're making money off of them when you created the chaos, you caused the problems, and now you're getting paid to solve them. And I don't even know if you want to solve them, because you're still operating in the same manner. So again, City of Raleigh, Wake County, I'll call them who they are. Sir Walter Raleigh, the pirate, the player, the pimp. That's who you are, and you still carry that legacy on today. Margaret Wake, slave owner, wife of Governor Tryon. That's right, Tryon, the slave owner. Governor Tryon, the 8th governor of this state, also the 39th governor of New York, or whomever he is. Again, you still are pimps, and you're pimping out black people. And that's why they collect themselves in the center of your city and make a mockery of you as you try to enjoy your sweet elite lifestyle. And let's go back. I know this is off topic, but we're talking about the life and the quality of life for black people. And those who have sailed above the fray of white fragility or white, this white cloud that you can sleep on, don't sleep, because they hate you up there too. At the top and the bottom. It doesn't matter. It's just that the ones that are at the bottom scream their pain louder. You all live in pain, and you think your education and going to a social club, such as church and other things, can heal it, but it don't make Massa behave. It don't make him behave. You being able to cope and clean out your closet and fill it up with more stuff does not make him no better. As you can see, Trump hates everybody from the educated all the way down to the bottom. So again, you are in the hated group, and we're calling on everybody. It is everyone's responsibility to come out and show out for every last person who is in the diaspora who is falling on this land or across this globe. Yes, we must put our face forward, and we have to come out and say something, because this is unacceptable. For us to go 9 days and not know who a young man's, that's unacceptable. Let's go back to the slavery days, where these people didn't even have enough decency to put our names on a docket. Young child, maybe 2. Young child, girl, maybe. And then they classified us as what we were able to do, domestic, whatever. This young man has nothing, not a name, almost not an age, and nothing, but he's suicidal. That is very disrespectful. And you can say that you're protecting him all you want, but I can tell you what, that is not protection. We would have preferred you to protect us in any other way but that.
And I would like to say right quick, I wish it was something that we knew about the young man that we could really say something nice, because the only thing that we've heard about this young man is that he was walking around and that he was asking for water. Like, that's a big thing, or that's a negative thing, and that he was walking with the extension cord. And all this came, later. So that's why I'm talking about the manufacturing evidence, as you go along. That's why, I pay close attention to everything that's going on, the timeline and everything, because, you got to keep your eyes open and pay attention. Because my thing is this: why create a negative image of this young brother in the minds of the public by saying that he had a mental health illness, making it seem like he was delusional or crazy? That's really disrespectful when we don't even know who this young man was. And it probably isn't true. And why is it that the city, they're mad at the public for being concerned like we don't have a right? Like, just basically they telling us to shut up and stay in your place. You know,
Right.
but that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be honest, it's going to backfire on a lot of officials here in Raleigh because this thing is going to gain a lot of traction. And the major mistake that they're making, and I'm going to tell it to them, is that they're not releasing that young brother's name.
Right.
Because that causes all kinds of questions, and it absolutely destroys their credibility.
That's right.
In anything that they had to say in dealing with this case, where they wrapped it up so fast and they did not even get in contact with the newspaper or the news agency. The reporter, and this was during the Caribbean Festival,
Right.
downtown Raleigh, and you're not going to report that a black man was found hanging?
Right.
See, they couldn't cover it up in Roanoke Rapids because when the people found out, they hurry up and went to social media. And their police chief jumped on it, and he immediately said it's an open investigation. They cannot try to hide that brother's name, right? Because the people know, the family know. And everybody
knew who he was.
And they knew who he was.
It's very disturbing when you can live your entire life and nobody knows who you are in the community. That is also our fault. That our young people are roaming the streets and no one knows their name. We'll give them a water bottle, but we won't say, hey brother, what's your name? What's your name? Like, okay, so I'm calling on everybody. Test your humanity level. Why? Because it is time for us to up beyond us making money downtown and, our social, even July the 4th. You didn't know any of those black children or what they were going through until they descended into your space. These black children came, and disruptive or not, you didn't want them there in the first place. So when we look talking about social media, I looked at some of the responses or comments on those July the 4th children, and they said, I thought this was a college neighborhood. I thought the events downtown were solely for college students. Mind you, they just found out that maybe 29 were arrested or so. This is approximately what we're hearing on last Tuesday, that this wasn't a teen takeover. It was more adults that were arrested. Wow. And that the young people, yes, indeed, had some stuff going on, but and they were majority from out of town. So here you are trying to put a curfew on for people who the majority of them didn't even apply. This really didn't even apply to them. And there was a young man who did have a gun who was underage, and I was standing there right with him. And again, we have these issues going on. But how are we going to deal with these issues? And, I don't want to sidetrack the message, but do note, looking at what's going on downtown with any of our black males and females could tell you on a larger scale, we have something going on. And we shouldn't be event driven to deal with it. We shouldn't wait to a suicide or a homicide or July the 4th event for us to be dealing with these issues. Because I can personally say, I've reached out to the city council members, you name it, on the issue of lynchings. And I'm not talking about one that hangs from trees, because they don't start from a tree. Lynchings do not start from a tree. Lynching starts from the behaviors and the attitudes of institutions, because guess what? No lynching can happen without an institution allowing it.
That's exactly right.
That's the first thing. Lynchings are not solely just on somebody, being hung from a tree. If we'll go back and we look at the pictures that they posted without no mask on, they're telling you that they are allowed to lynch us. They were allowed. So guess what? Lynchings are just not solo, and they're not isolated. It takes a whole Emmett Till, the sheriff's department, everybody, and they walked away scot-free. So this is not, as Corey Branch believes, as he's interpreted to be, yes, it's an investigation, and perhaps an isolated event. This is a behavior that is institutionalized and state sponsored. And whether it applies to this particular case or the other, I could tell you this. Prior to anybody dying in the city of Raleigh, we never even saw our own city council member come out and say anything about the murders of any of our black men. No vigils or nothing. Help me, Brother Ausar.
My thing is this, right, is that how in every incident, the first thing they want to say is no foul play. Those
Yes.
three words.
Right.
I think those are key code words to law enforcement agencies in the legal department, right?
Right.
No foul play. And then what they come after that? Suicide,
Right.
right? And so my thing is this: how come there has been no serious discussions or inquiries about the possibility of hate groups or there being a serial killer in the South that's going around hanging people? They haven't even discussed this as a possibility, right? And it's like they want to push it in everybody's head. Mental health, suicide. Mental health, suicide. No foul play.
Right.
You know, under all these what they call mysterious conditions, they're not mysterious whatsoever. How are you going to string yourself up in the tree, high in the air? It's not happening.
Right.
These are things basically that are being orchestrated and organized, you know, by, I honestly think it's groups because of the frequency and how they're getting away with it. And that's why, you know, a lot of people are very concerned about, you know, the police departments nationally because of their history, right? Their history of corruption. They have a history of corruption.
It's true.
Especially false arrest, false imprisonment, right? False executions.
Right.
5 years later, they found out the person they executed was innocent. Right? So
That's good.
we
That's
really
good.
have to, you know, understand that, you know, this country hasn't given us justice. And I really think that, you know, we really should take a look at Dirk Bell's work because it's a reason why they banned a lot of his books, right? His ideas and his thoughts. And I've said this before. I really feel like the African American attorneys, black attorneys should really study Dirk Bell, right? Because a lot of times, you know, when you're working for the system, you become intimidated by the system because that's your way of living. And sometimes we need to be able to get some type of inspiration or courage from some of our, you know, previous freedom fighters, you know, for liberation, because that's what we really need today. We need freedom fighters, right, and all professionals. But you're not going to find no freedom fighters in the police department, and you're not going to find no freedom fighters dealing with the legal system, the Justice Department. And I think that's important for us to understand, you know, that because they're not going to be honest, and they're not going to be revolutionists, and they're not going to basically fight, you know, for the rights of black people.
You know, and even predating African Americans or, you know, whatever we're classified as, we cannot forget the natives who the land they originally stood on. We all stand on. And the millions of acres that were taken from them, the millions of dollars that were swindled from the resources under their feet all the way to the land above and on. But, you know, I was looking at the suicide rate of races. And, of course, the natives have the highest suicide rate.
Right.
Now, what do you think you can attribute that to with the alcoholism that plagued their community? Alcoholism to numb the pain. Here we are 200 and 300, 400 years later. They're still
They hurting like we hurt.
They are hurting like we are hurting. And they are killing each other by the minute. And let me ask, what has America done to solve that issue? We're talking about this one man, yes, and very importantly so. we don't really commit suicide, and we're asking for resolve. We're actually looking for resolve, repair, and a true investigation. But what does that look like for the rest of Black America? Because we know they haven't given the natives any attention to their alcoholism and suicide. None. You don't even know they exist because they've been tucked away on reservations.
Dr. Kim, did you say that the SBI has gotten involved?
Well, no, I did not. Steve, one of our
Right.
over.
Oh, okay. But no, because that was good. Because, see, it's because you got to look at all the cases statewide that's taking place.
Yes.
Charlotte, Harrisburg Park, Raleigh, and Roanoke Rapids.
Right.
This is a state crisis. So not only does, public safety need to get involved, but
That's right.
also the Department of Health in dealing with the mental health, right? And
Right. And what's causing the mental health?
Exactly. We need to find out. Well, we know what caused, but it need to be some. And we have a lot of research and things like that. But this is the one point I want to make, right? Because sometimes I feel like, we be hard on ourselves and we be hard on each other because of the pain from, what's taking place. All our brothers and sisters getting hung. Like what you just said, Dr. Kim, how we should always be, fighting for justice. And we do.
Right.
A lot of us do. But, people, the way it's set up, they have to, struggle just for survival.
That's
so
right.
it takes incidents like this to open up the eyes, right?
It's true.
But I think that this time our eyes are going to stay open. I've been very encouraged in what I've been seeing. I was proud of some young brothers, but we got to work with them young brothers, because for some reason, it's a wedge that's being driven between the youth and the elders, right? And I don't know where all this is coming from. And we got a lot of our young people are very respectful though, and love the elders. But we have to reach out to our youth, right, and listen to our youth and build that bond with our youth because we're in this struggle together, right? And we're trying to make sure that we can, provide, safety, leadership, and guidance for our future generations, right? So we have to embrace these brothers and not be so hard on them. It's easy for us to get upset with them when they wearing their little shiesties and doing things, but they're not doing anything but imitating what they see. And that's why it's so important that we put the right type of information in front of our brothers and sisters when we're talking about cultural arts, when we're talking about, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, hip-hop. But more than anything, we need to listen. We need to get to our youth and let them know, basically the historical factors
That's right.
that are
Attach yourself.
showing up today, as far as lynchings and things of that nature.
We have a phone call coming in. Peace. You're on there with Africans United. Know Thyself. Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning. Speak up a little bit, brother, if you may.
Hey, good morning. I'm actually tuning into the show this morning. I hope everyone's doing well.
Thank you. You the same.
Okay, so I wanted to give some perspective on the topic at hand and just share that while it's a great conversation and it's great overall mentioning and awareness of the things that's going on outside, but at some point, guys, we got to start to be honest with ourselves and our platforms when we choose to be the spokesperson for our culture. When we do things like radio shows, TV shows, and we do not have the restrictions on us that like a ABC, NBC, or any of those major platforms would require us to have as personalities on the air, we're kind of jumping the line. Like you guys are jumping the line and being able to be the first person to speak for us as our people. That's why I'm tuned in on this Sunday morning at 10 a.m. listening. I love when our people choose to speak up about things that are affecting us. My issue that I'm going to extend the challenge to you guys as well as to us in our culture is We have to start being honest. We do not share collectively enough care for each other before these things happen. Even if the police said that this isolated incident is a hanging, what was going on in that young man's life prior to him getting to that tree? Yes, 2 streets away, everyone was partying in the Caribbean aspect of our culture, but the African Americans who are not Haitian, Jamaican, they weren't participating in those Caribbean festivities. So what happened in this young man's life? What took place? Where are the friends?
Well,
See, we're
if
so
I may,
quick.
if I may interject, brother. Well,
No problem,
you know
brother.
what we do, Africans United, right? Which is an extension of KCSSU, Committed Culture, Science, and System of Unity. We've been working with our communities the last 14 years, teaching the knowledge of self, who we are as a people, teaching our history. You know, we have town hall meetings dealing with systemic and institutional racism, dismantling it, the school to prison pipeline, like all the issues that are taking place. So we're not jumping the gun, and we're really not being the spokesman for all of our people. We are giving a perspective out of concern, and really, you know, I'm not going to give credit to NBC, ABC, because I understand who they're controlled by, right? That's why social media is so important, because a lot of these things wouldn't even be known if it wasn't for social media. So I don't think that we should get the validation for the oppressors of our people, especially, you know, understanding how the media, you know, how they have basically, you know, criminalized us in the past, and they continue to criminalize us, right? So we do have to be honest, right? That's what we teach the children, Maya, right? That's our foundation: truth, justice, righteousness, right? Balance, order, harmony, reciprocity. So we are at this thing each and every day being honest. We know the challenges that we suffer from as a people, the miseducation, the poor health care, right? We can't be so hard on ourselves that when we start to stand up for our people, that we want to critique the ones who are standing up for our people, because that's kind of counterproductive, right? And I'm glad that you are tuning in, right? But, you know, we cannot share everything we know in one setting. So what we're doing is addressing what's taking place now across the country. So we can never jump the gun when a black man was found hanging in downtown Raleigh during the middle of a Caribbean fair. I don't care what the police say, because I know. And I study this stuff each and every day. And I study, you know, the records of lynchings and hangings, and even what's going on today, right? So we're very well, you know, do a lot of research, you know, before we come and open our mouths. And I want to give a shout out, you know, to my big brother, Dwayne, who's part of the team, Linda Darton, our lead administrator, Dr. Elijah Mickle, Baba Akmos, my Jagna, because we have a team of people that contribute to help us out as we continue to, you know, push for liberation and power, you know, from our people. So I don't think that we should be so analytical with one another, you know, with the challenge that we have as a people. I think that our focus should be on liberation, empowerment, and the development of us as a people.
Well,
Okay,
first
that was
of
great.
thank you
That
so
was
much.
great, brother. I appreciate that feedback.
Indeed, brother.
First of all, let me say thank you, brother, for tuning in and giving your perspective. And yes, we do agree that more can be done amongst us all. And that is our cry today, is that all of us will stand up before, after, and during. I can't tell you how many vigils I've done, and not our own people don't show up because they feel like our people deserve to die. You have a very elite African Americans who probably would not have stood up for George Floyd had they not seen the brutal lynching of him openly. Why? Because sometimes classism interrupts racism. And so it's very hard to even, let me say this, I was a 20-year advocate for children in foster care, but I found that I never had a white client. They never gave me a white client for foster care. I also taught in the county jail for free. men, women, and juveniles, trying to interrupt those cycles of defeat so that their children will have a chance. So we go in, we deal with the children, we deal with the men, women. So foster care, you'll see me teaching. I teach children with IEPs, which is individual education plans. Those who
So
are following.
excuse me, guys.
Yes.
Excuse me, guys. What I wanted to make very clear, because I'm listening to how both of you guys responded to my initial introduction. I didn't get to finish my point or my statement before
Okay.
the brother felt impatiently needed to, remind me. No, seriously, because again, when
No,
I
you're welcome.
initiated
Please say
the call,
so.
yeah, when I started the call, the reason why I gave the examples of NBC and ABC is because when we're on independent platforms, we do not have to play by the same rules. So therefore, we have a little
true.
more flexibility in the things that we can address and speak on. Now, I'm not calling at 10 o'clock in the morning to question either one of you guys'
Right.
integrity or history. That's not what I said. So your resume and all the work that you guys do, that's excellent and is highly respected, and that's why the conversation caught my attention. Anything else could have caught my attention this morning. But one of the issues why I called in and wanted to speak is because I take a look at my brother, the engineer that's sitting there, right? His world and all of the people that he interact that look like him and that he interact with every day don't care as much as what you guys are saying in their real life.
Right.
It isn't that it's valid. It's not valid. It isn't that there isn't a point. The point is there's a disconnection in today's society of black culture where we love to get on these platforms. We love to get on social media. We love to get out here publicly and beg and ask for better treatment from the world, especially white people. But we do not ask or demand that same level of respect, care, and give up from our own. And that's what I was meaning about honesty. If we're being honest, they can lynch any one of us or shoot us. They done shot us in front of the world on camera. They done lynched us in front of the world on camera because they can. Because we do not care enough as a culture unanimously about our own. None of us do enough work to hold our own accountable every day so that the babies coming up after us know that we matter. We have to matter to us. We can all chase whatever religion, whatever faith we want to, but none of those religious faiths has favoritism. You know who is favorite? Kindness, love. And until that exists in black culture, you guys are sitting having this conversation on a white man's radio show. Steve sitting right there is a white man allowing the platform to do it. That's how bold we are. Well, you would sit on someone else's network and talk about how their race is doing us dirty, when in fact it's us.
Well, we have to be fearless, and I think that that's one of the things we act like. We're not supposed to have courage to say what need to be said, right? And I think that we have to admit psychologically, we've been impacted to the point where we feel like we have to take instructions from our oppressors in our fight for liberation. We have to have confidence, not only confidence.
Do we take instructions from our own, though? So if it's not from the oppressors, right? Who do we take instructions from, and when does that begin?
First thing we have to do is open
our culture.
The first thing we have to do is open our ears and our eyes and our hearts to our African scholars, revolutionaries, leaders, and we have thousands of them that we can name. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Francis Wellesley, Malimba Ani. We can go on and on. John Jackson, right? So we have the evidence, we have the literature, we have the history, of our greats who basically have paved the way. A lot of them were murdered, right? Like Thomas and Carver in Africa. We got to connect with Africa, just like when you was talking about at the Caribbean Cultural Festival about the Haitians, Jamaicans. All of those are our brothers. I'm a Pan-Africanist, right? And it's important because Pan-Africanism is for every black person on this planet, right? Think about it. Whoever controls Africa controls the world. Africa, unfortunately, is going through a difficult time because of everything that happened from 1884 to what's taking place today, right? But there is hope there because of what? The AES, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. So we can't just stay stuck here in the United States, because remember, we're in the belly of the beast. And they voted against the transatlantic slave trade as being the gravest crime against humanity. So we really can't come down too hard on ourselves, being that we were enslaved over here for over 300-something years, and we've only been so-called set free for 161 years. Like, when I was born...
Listen, brother, respectfully, right? Listen. Here's what I'm going to say, right? Because I don't want to take too much time up, and I don't want to be the only voice that calls in the share. My point that I wanted to ask you guys is, okay, if we continue, yes, the impact of the slave generation in that moment had tremendous impact on our people. Tremendous. We would never downplay it, ignore it, or act like it didn't. But if we're being very honest, the average black person, especially man, lives to be the age of 75. Women live longer. So, in the existence that you've been on this earth, the young lady to your left has been on this earth, my brother on the engineering board, and myself, for the duration that we've been on this earth, what I'm speaking on has nothing to do with the history that we continue to hang our hat on. It's simple. My parents, my
What do you mean? What do you mean by? What do you mean? Oh, it don't have. It doesn't have anything.
I'm going to tell you. That's where I was going into.
Are you saying it doesn't have? Are you saying? Are you saying that what I'm? Are you now? Listen to the question, brother. Listen to the question, brother. Now, listen to the question. He don't know the question. He don't listen to the question.
I was in the middle of making my point.
I was in the middle of making my point. I was in the middle of my point when you cut me off, right? So this is my question. This is my question.
Dialogue on the radio. I don't want to debate with you. It's just you're not used to people calling in.
This is my question because I want clarity. I want clarity. I want clarity. And that is, so are you saying that the history that I was talking about doesn't have anything to do with today?
As I was stating, brother, the history of what our ancestors went through has zero to do with how you and I treat one another, how the sister to your left and I treat, and all others here in black culture in 2026.
That's not true.
So if we cannot show compassion, celebration, love, when you walk out the door, holding it for the next gentleman, hey, how you doing? Good morning. I'm talking about basic acts of kindness in society that we can go to Durham, sit in any parking lot and watch our people interact coming out of stores, leave there, go to Cary, watch how the white people interact. And if we don't see an inkling of kindness and how we treat each other and we can't change that, we cannot continue to say the slave trade is the reason why we don't even simply look out for one another.
Okay, I got a question.
Hold on. Hey, brother.
I'm not going to debate y'all.
Right.
I'm going to let the line go, but I'm going to stay on the show.
Well, let me say this, brother.
On Facebook, so I'm going to listen to your feedback.
Yeah, let me ask you this real quick, brother.
Yes, sir,
because this is not a debate show, and I don't want it to go there either.
No, that's okay.
Right.
Debate can be good.
No. Our show is.
No,
our show is dealing with the issues as well as the solutions in the communities.
Right.
So
bingo.
So if you want to and you sound very passionate. So if you want to leave a name or something, and then we can collaborate and discuss this further.
Sure.
And then we can decide on how we can move on further. Or if not, you want to remain anonymous, then that's fine too. But we're not going to do a debate show at this point now.
But I have a question though. How does
Brother Kevin,
what does that have to do with our people being hung? Us being kind and nice to each other. That's the question.
Well, Brother Kevin, can I say this? Can I just interject here? That I do believe there are multiple layers of things that we can be doing. Some have, what we will say is that we may, whether we say transatlantic slavery or not, we still have a slaveocracy of an entire country. So that never went away. We're still being affected today. That's why
right.
this is on the table, because the same people who enslaved us then are still trying to hold us penalty now. So yes, we have a lot of work to do, but we have to arrest both. We can't say either or. We have a duty to dismantle a system that hates us, but we also have a duty to build amongst ourselves. And as we and we have to recognize that we're in enslavement mode, where we're having to constantly free ourselves. Why? Because there has been so much dependency to survive in a system that won't allow us to thrive. Now we build, and that is what this is about here. Africans United is more geared towards building as we take our individual work and we bring it to the community. And that's why we didn't do this for a resume. We didn't say this for a resume. All of us work together. Who you see here at the table is always in the community, working together, bringing these issues collectively before a larger body, not just our own. I go out and I tell other people about black children and foster care, but on the weekend I'm with these guys helping these children learn who they are. So we exemplify what you said, showing that kindness on our weekends, helping out, pooling our monies together. So we are building the community slowly but surely. Now, we're sorry it hasn't hit the masses yet, and you know how fast our people go back to sleep after a lynching. George Floyd will tell you that humanity goes back to sleep. I'm sorry for that, but we're in the trenches, and we would love to have you with us as we continue plowing this ground amongst us. And it's taken some time, but I believe as a people we will get there. I think Martin Luther King said that. So we look forward to you and your name, brother, to join us in some of our endeavors. I know you can't do them all because we can't do them all, but if everybody put their hands to the plow, at some point we can get it done. And using this platform for us, yes, it's a powerful tool, but we are all looking at a page in front of us that talk about FCC rules. So even though we're not ABC, NBC, or whatever, WTVD, we still have regulations, and we are not the people who you would think, because we are not. We are never afraid to tell the truth about what's going on in our community.
If I may,
thank you, sister. I really appreciate the tone in which you used when you wanted to speak, because that came from a place of endearment. I appreciate each one of you brothers for listening, for understanding. My point was never about. That's also something that I noticed.
Hold on a second, brother. Hold on a second, brother. Hold. Cut him off, brother. Cut him off. That was very disrespectful, brother. And I'm gonna tell you why. Right? Because for one, hold on. Listen to me, brother. This is our show. Cut the brother off, please. Right? Okay. You calling in this show, right? We got some serious issues going on, right? First thing you start saying is about ABC, NBC, in the way that we're conducting now. Cut that brother off, right? Brother, please listen to me when I ask you to do something. Don't listen to them, okay? Because this is the thing. This is the thing, right? Every time I spoke, he started talking. He didn't speak when Dr. Kim spoke. Very disrespectful, right? This is our show. We are putting our thoughts out there. We study. I don't have anything about the brother, but I do understand distractions, right? And when people, a lot of time, they try to sabotage the message in the mission. Because remember the first thing he went to talking about, he wanted to give his perspective. I don't mind debating, right? Because a good debate never hurt anything, because what we're doing is trying to come up with resolutions. And it involves all of us. Even if it get to be a heated debate, we shouldn't be so soft where it impacts us to the minute where we feel like kindness and love is going to get us liberation and power. No, it's not. Kindness and love is not going to get us liberation and power. Not when the enemy is using weapons of mass destruction to destroy us, right? And that's why it's so important to study. Because just like when the sister said, Sonia Massey, when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, she still got shot, right? So we can't come with a moralistic viewpoint that if we be kind and nice to each other, that the enemy is going to stop hanging our brothers and sisters. That don't have nothing to do with it. Right? When you're dealing with white supremacists, right, and they make up their mind that they want to go and target and hunt a black person and kill him, us being kind of nice to each other. So that's really off topic, right? We have done over 60 shows here covering a variety of different issues that take place in our community, right? So it's kind of, offensive to call in and have so much to say, and then when I try to respond, because he did cut me off 2 times, he want to try to overtalk me. I'm not going to go for that. I'm a warrior, plain and simple. We as a people need more warriors who don't back down, because anytime you take that soft approach, that's the approach they want you to take. When you become docile and weak and think it's all about kindness and love while they bashing our heads in. That's why they incarcerate so many of our young brothers, because they know that those are the warriors and the soldiers, right? Because you got to be able to protect yourself militarily, right? So with me, right, they like to say passion, but I got a lot of spirit, right? Because of what I see that's taking place, with our people. Everybody know how I defend the children all the time. And I defend our people. We do as an organization. We do as a team, right? So when a person call in, they should respect what we got going on as well, right? When he said, as far as Dr. Kim tone, he can't expect my tone to be like Dr. Kim, because I'm going to be a warrior. And I'm not going to back down when it comes to our people. You're not going to tell me a young black man was found hanging downtown and I'm supposed to go walk around and be kind and nice to people, right? So we have to rethink a lot of our thoughts, right? Remember, in our teachings, control your thoughts, control your actions, steadfastness and purpose. Have faith in your teacher's ability to lead you on the path of truth. Have faith in your ability to accept the truth, right? Have the ability to act with wisdom. Right? We have to act with wisdom, right? We can't have little sound bites, because there's a lot that's going on the internet in dealing with all these cases, Nolan Wells and everything, right? Me, I'm like Dr. Kim. I believe in being out there in the trenches, but at the same time, I know that this is a platform for us to get the message out to our brothers and sisters of just how serious matters are. So when people get to talking about, well, we don't want no debate, hey, why not? If you're gonna start the debate, don't start the debate by saying something and then want to back off, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna catch it, because I'm in tune.
I would love to see if he was brave enough to leave his name before we did.
That's not important. That's not important.
Well, I wanted to see if he really was gonna step outside and put boots on the ground.
Well, he called to be critical more than anything
That's what it sounded like at the
in a
beginning.
slick
But I
way,
wanted to see if he
in a
wanted-
condescending way. He was trying to be critical, and then when I spoke on what I was doing, and Dr. Kim spoke on what he was doing, and then he tried to act like we were trying to, give ourselves credibility, which that isn't what we was doing. We was basically just stating that don't call in here try to act like we're not doing something.
Boots on the ground.
Yes.
We got boots on the ground. And I wanted, before I did, which, because I wanted to see if he was brave enough to leave his name, and I wanted to see if he'd come out and put boots on the ground. That's why I said we can collaborate in the future.
Let me say this. I didn't take it offensive. I understood where he was coming from. However, it would have been much better if it would have been illustrated a little bit better. Only the reason why I say is because he talked about the platform, that we have a platform, and I understand that. However, I'm not social media. You're not going to find me on those ways to express what is going on with the black community, because technically, for the most part, wherever I am, I'm always going to tell the truth, and it doesn't matter. We talk about ABC, WRL. I don't have any filters on there no more than I do here. I just speak the truth, and they edit. These networks edit what they want. Lucky for us on here, we pretty much share whatever we want to share. But even after sharing, there has to be the next phase of organization. I think we do well with that when we come together and we try to make people aware. Let me say this. Because black people are in survival mode, because they're in survival mode. Who pays their checks? They're not jumping ship to come to our truth. They would rather get paid by the government. The government, in a lot of cases, are the culprits behind it. So even though they go to church on Sunday, some of them are sitting there now, they can hear truth all day. On Monday, they belong to massa. And that is the transatlantic slave trade reality. That's the Stockholm Syndrome that says, yes, I can love you. But that love, that breakdown also tells you that we can never, not never, but look at the patterns of practice where we don't even spend money with each other in businesses. And do we even have money businesses to share our funds with? What is the patterns of practice of us building our Black Wall Streets only for them to be disrupted, torn down, destabilized? So we're always having to restart over. Our Black people have never had a problem before. But what has happened over time is the attacks that happen on our community. And we have to take count of that. We have to, Brother Kevin said, what are you saying, that the transatlantic slave trade didn't affect? Well, it does. Mm-hmm. Every time we're attacked, it sets us back. And then we have to come back again and rebuild our communities and rebuild and rebuild. And we can't forget, and I think that's the other problem, is that some people, and I'll send this out to the brother, but I also send this out on Friday night. I attended, I love comedy, and I love some satire comedy. So I actually went and I heard Ronnie Chang and Chang, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but Ronnie Chang and Hassan Minaj, who are both Asian. One is from maybe more the Chinese spot, and then the other one, of course, is from supposedly the India. But they are both daily shows, and you should have heard them talk about racism. Well, by the time you finished, it almost sounded like we were not brilliant at all. We were just here, and we were last in everything, according to them. Here we are. These are new age comers of America. Mm-hmm. Yet they know nothing about our brilliance. They know nothing that we set in stone, our communities. And that in itself is a disservice to the Black community. Are we sharing? Are we putting out who we are? Does it matter? We loud about everything else in the entertainment world, but are we really displaying? And it's getting swallowed up generation by generation. And who is being promoted or who is being glamorized is the entertainment world. So when you talk about social media, when you talk about what people are gravitating to, it's not our brilliance. It's not, who is being catered to. It's who can entertain us the fastest. And unfortunately, that has a huge effect even on our communities, because our young people today don't go to school so they can come back and build community. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get their money so they can get as far away from the Black community as possible. These are things that didn't happen with us, but collectively over time. And yes, we have a duty to address these issues and bring back our centeredness. And that is why we just started this show, but we're biting a piece of it, piece by piece, brother, to say we got to collect what we have lost. And we are doing it amongst ourselves, but we're also sharing with others. And you are cordially invited at 4 o'clock today at 404 Martin Luther King Boulevard. Yes, well, we'll be talking about this lynching as a collective and what can we do, this lynching or suicide. Let me say that. Whatever it is, you are cordially invited at 505 Martin Luther King Boulevard. Thank you for tuning in. And we hope that we can see your face in the place, because we need more perspectives. We need action. Whatever we believe, we need to stand on it and execute it. And I'm sure if you're not wrong, others will join with you and support the work. And we hope that you will also support us as we endeavor to notify others and get more people involved.
Definitely. If you're really spirited or passionate about helping the community or doing something for the community, sound like he was trying to say we need to be unifying a little bit better or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I don't disagree, but I will say that how we critique each other is very important.
No, definitely, because at the beginning he did start out by saying such and such, and I do know you all work. I've seen it firsthand, and so
Oh yeah.
yeah, so you can't come up and start talking that. But anyway, back protection cannot consist only of reacting after another tragedy. We need lasting community infrastructure. First, establish a rapid response team of attorneys, mental health professionals, clergy, journalists, and trained community advocates. Second, create a fact verification process before unconfirmed claims are amplified. 3, develop relationships with independent forensic and civil rights experts who can review questionable deaths. 4th, teach residents how to preserve evidence, document witnesses, and submit public records requests. Organize trained community safety teams for festivals, demonstrations, and major cultural events. 6, build culturally competent mental health and suicide prevention networks specifically accessible to Black men. Next, maintain sustained pressure on city officials through public meetings, written requests, and organized follow-up, not only social media outrage. And last, record Raleigh and Wake County's history of racial violence and law enforcement misconduct so that these events are not treated as isolated or forgotten. Community protection means confronting possible injustice with courage. It also means protecting grieving families from misinformation, exploitation, and graphic images. So, Brother Ausar, why is it important to have community protection? And is there a need for a lasting community infrastructure consistent of the steps listed?
Emphatically, yes, for some of them, right? I definitely, and this is something we always speak on, putting protection on our children and putting protection on our women in our communities. And I know you two remember the event we was at May 11th at Lions Park when they was targeting our elementary age children, criminalizing them, talking about they were throwing, breaking rocks, had the news people there and everything, city councilman, everybody there, right? So, and I got upset there, like I, basically when I was just talking to the brother, because I'm going to defend us, right? And it was caught on tape with me, walking out. You was there with me. Dr. Kim was there, talking about y'all trying to criminalize our children, and it caught fire, on social media because they were saying we need to stick up, for our children, right? These are children in elementary, right? And I was saying because we got to put protection on our children, our women, and our families. Now we have a slew of hangings taking place across the South, right? In Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, North Carolina, and we've been screaming this at KCSSU the whole while. We had to put protection on ourselves. What do we teach? The first line of protection starts with the knowledge that we have, our consciousness. That's why we say what? Control your thoughts, control your actions, right? Let our thoughts be African-centered on truth, justice, and righteousness. Number 10, have the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. We know that these hangings are real, right? And we also know that it's not happening to any other group of people. Not to the Europeans, not to the Asians, not to the Hispanics, not to anyone but the African Americans. So we have to deal with this with reality. So to put protection on ourselves, we have to do like one of the points you made. We have to organize, put pressure on our city officials. They've already admitted to, basically mistreating and criminalizing Black people through the resolution, right? So we really have to lock in and understand that this has to be not only a local and state movement, but a national and a global movement to put protection on Black people for human rights, for the sake of humanity.
Yes.
Right? And then, see, and this is the thing. And even Black people feel like we don't have no right to say certain things, like the brother who just called in. He feel like we shouldn't have the right to say it because NBC and ABC ain't saying it, right? They're not over me or us. They're not over KCSSU, right? We have to stop being subordinate and subservient, right? if anybody listen to every week when we open up, what do I scream out? I am the original man, meaning everything else come from behind us. One of our major problems as a people is that we have been taught to disregard anything that the black man or the black woman has to say. Don't take it seriously, right? They want to judge you up by what you have, your status, your job, money. But it don't cost me nothing to think, right? It don't cost me a penny to study. It don't cost any of us anything to raise our consciousness. That's why this show is Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio. Because we know, see, once we raise our consciousness and have the knowledge of self, everything that the brother was talking about, it'll take place. But it's a process, right? It's a process, right? We are in their system, right? We're in the belly of the beast. We're in probably the worst place for a black person to be on this planet in the United States. But we don't want to face that reality, right? So when we talk about let's be honest about things, right? History is vital. If you don't know your history, and then you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you came from, right? So we build on the principles and the values and the teachings that our ancestors taught, right? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge with our own brothers and sisters because of the miseducation of the black man, the black woman, and the black child. So we have to be diligent and vigilant in our approach to liberation and power, right? So I think that, in moving forward with everything that's going on, it's important for us to take care of each other. And this is what disturbs me really more than anything, right? Because we always talking about building, we talking about economic development, we talking about healthcare, education. But right now, we have to focus on protecting our children, our women, and our people. We have to worry about our children when they go to school. We shouldn't have to worry about our children getting on the bus, wondering if they're going to come back or not, or dropping them off and somebody come through the line where they pick up children and snatch a child. We shouldn't have to worry about those type of things. Some children walk home from school, right? Some women get off late at work from working at the hospital or whatever, might have to stop by the store to get some gas or whatever. We shouldn't have to worry about these things that are taking place, right? So I'm going to raise my voice every chance I get to stick up for black people. And I love black people, right? I love black people with all of my heart. But I know at this point in time, it's going to take more than love and kindness. It's going to take us really using our minds and thinking and coming together as a people so that we can do with the question which you asked me, put protection on ourselves.
Sure indeed. Dr. Kim, you want to...
Well, I do believe that, there's a time and a place for everything. But I also believe that we have to work simultaneously, offensively and defensively. So there's, while we're warring to protect, we also have to build our communities. So as we're protecting our people, we have to pour back into things that we've lost. And that is why there's, in advocacy, I always get people to come to me and say, Dr. Kim, we should be doing this, or this, we should be doing that. I said, no, you should be doing that. If you came up with it, it needs to be done. Right. And so we invite everybody who have an idea to do it, because there's plenty of work to be done. And it's not you have to do one or the other. No, all of it needs to be done. And everybody can pull. And that is kindness, is when we do it and everybody benefits. When I'm saving one child, others know that Miss Kim is there to help all of our kids. Look how she does one child. It's not the masses. It's what we do individually, one at a time, until it catches like fire. But we have to be seen doing it so that can be our normalcy. It's taking our kids out of, and I use foster care. But when I'm as an advocate and I go to these meetings, we're not at the table trying to save our own kids. Our own kids are going into Carrie's households and other households that are not black, even though we are predominantly the children that are in foster care. So guess what? We all have a duty and obligation to get out here and put our foot to the ground, because it's not either or. It is and meaning all of our issues need to be addressed. And it's enough of us to do so. No matter what platform we're on, we speak the truth. We speak truth to power. And if there's a higher truth, please bring it, because the truth will set us free. We need as much truth as we can. And if that truth can ignite us to get out and do something, each one, no matter how small we believe it is the greater of the whole. So we look forward to, again, everybody putting their hands to the plow so that we can get it done. And on many occasions, we here have actually had to call out those who are so codependent on the government that they can't shake themselves to help each other. That has become a very powerful, that's why we call it a slaveocracy, because sometimes people would prefer to be enslaved to a false system than to come out and be kind. I think I mentioned earlier that, and I don't know if I did now that I'm thinking about it, but when George Floyd died, some of our city employees came out in March for his lynching. But we've had 7 murders in the city of Raleigh over a 20-year period, and they don't come. They're scared to death, which means they're more loyal to the city, or they're more afraid of losing their jobs and their employment than they are to a cause that's here regardless of what city they're in. So again, we have to give everybody the freedom. We have to push for freedom for everybody.
Yes.
Because on various levels, yes, we could throw a brick through everyone's window, but we got to dismantle our people out of the mouth of even the government. They make money off of them.
Yes. The duty is the upliftment of fallen humanity. And we know which part of humanity is down right now.
Yes.
And been down for the past
umpteen years.
Like Brother Ausar states, I do believe in fighting, and I know it's gonna come to that sooner or later. But I believe in strategic fighting.
Yes.
Shaka Zulu was organized. Brother Hannibal was organized. As Kwame Ture says all the time, organize.
Yes.
So.
And we need everybody. We need
and
our doctors.
And the strength is in the numbers.
It is.
So.
And we need to be covered at every cause. I think Brother Ausar did say something about attorneys. Somebody said it.
Yeah. Our professionals.
We need our professionals to cover us.
Definitely.
And let me say this, and I won't batter the chicken too much, but of course, we go to school, we go to HBCUs, and we still don't even know our local history right here. So how can you defend us? So there has to be on the ground education about what we're dealing with, and no fear to apply it. And if anyone is afraid to apply that truth, they have to admit they are under duress.
Yes. Final thought.
Well, my final thought is that, just understanding that, what we're facing today is the same thing that our ancestors faced 300 years ago, 400 years ago. Terroristic acts, by the dominant society, the Europeans, the white people, trying to intimidate and scare black people, and keep us in disarray, wanting us, to be angry and things of that nature. But, the thing what we have to do is we have to, really think, right? We have to study. We have to understand. We have to understand that we've been conditioned and brainwashed, right, to reject our knowledge that our ancestors had brought forth, because we don't know nothing but this system, this educational system. I was fortunate that, I had to go away for a long time, and I was fortunate to really study, and I've been at it, for 20 years, and I stay at it and going to stay at it, because I understand, the importance of the work, that we do. And we're going to continue and pass the work on, as time passes. So, my final thoughts is for black people, let's keep our heads on the swivel, right? Let's protect one another, and let's stand up and fight for the justice that we deserve as a people. And once we wake up, we can never go back and sleep again like what happened with the George Floyd incident.
Yes,
and
right.
Black people, I want y'all to know one thing. I love you all.
Mm-hmm. And as Dr. Kim stated, there's enough roles for everybody. So come out, put your boots on the ground, and let's not just keep talking about it. Again, remember, proper education always corrects error. Peace.
Peace.